Batman's got a long list of titles. The Dark Knight, Caped Crusader, Defender of Gotham. But there's another title that's often overlooked. World's Greatest Detective. If he's such a great detective, then why don't we ever see him, solving mysteries? I spent the last few months watching nothing but Batman. What, do you think I'd only make one video out of it? So I get where the nickname comes from. World's Greatest Detective. Batman is based on the noir detective genre. If you look at the earliest Batman comics, the influences are really obvious. Mystery solving is part of the DNA of the franchise. Heck, DC stands for Detective Comics. But over the years, this has become a less common feature of Batman stories. The stuff that comes out nowadays has almost no unanswered questions in the plot. In most Batman movies and TV shows, Batman is chasing after mob bosses who everyone already knows are committing crimes, or he's fighting crazy supervillains who announce their plans to the whole city first. Sure, when he's battling someone like the Riddler, he'll solve a few puzzles with some clever deductions.
Clock. Tear one off and scratch my head. Once was red is black instead.
Match.
And there are plenty of times when he plugs some stuff into his Bat computer and magically figures out everything he needs to know about a villain's plan. But as I watched every Batman movie, I noticed two things. One, almost none of them have a full-on whodunit plot. And two, the ones that do are bad. Every time one of these stories tries to do a twist villain, or has Batman solve a major mystery, it falls flat. So I'm gonna go through a few of them and try to figure out why. And over the course of this video, I'll be spoiling the endings of these Batman movies.
What weighs 6 ounces sits in a tree and is very dangerous.
A sparrow with a machine gun.
The first Batman movie to attempt a full-blown mystery is Mask of the Phantasm. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to rip this entire movie to shreds. It's very good. But the mystery element is, I think, a weak point in the story. There's a new villain in town, the Phantasm, who's going around killing old mobsters.
Your angel of death awaits.
Who are you? What do you want?
I want you, Chucky boy.
Alongside this, there are flashback scenes to back when Bruce Wayne first became Batman, and he started a romance with a woman named Andrea. Unfortunately, her dad got in trouble with the mob, and she had to flee the country. Towards the end of the movie, the Phantasm is revealed to be Andrea, taking revenge on the mob bosses who ruined her life. This is a twist that surprises no one. Aside from the obvious motive, Andrea and her father are the only two named characters who could possibly be under that mask. And after we find out that her dad is already dead, Andrea is the only suspect. None of this makes Mask of the Phantasm a bad movie. The film is really about Bruce and Andrea's trauma, grief, and revenge. It's a character-driven story, and mystery is only a small part of it. The next movie to feature mystery is Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. The premise of this story is that old Bruce Wayne is training a new Batman in the future when suddenly the Joker, long thought to be dead, shows up and starts terrorizing Gotham. As Terry McGinnis, the new Batman, investigates, we learn that old Batman had personally witnessed the Joker's death. In the flashback that follows, we see Tim Drake's Robin get tortured and turned into a mini Joker.
Do it! That's not funny. That's not...
It's horrifying, and I can't believe a kids movie went to such a dark place. But since the Joker has been dead and buried for decades, how did he return? It's a cool question that's set up, but once again we have a grand total of 2 suspects. The red herring is Jordan Price, the crooked manager of Wayne Enterprises. He's eventually shown to be working with the new Joker, but isn't the Joker himself, even though they are both voiced by Mark Hamill.
Let Let me go.
Got him.
Then amscray pronto, kiddies.
There's only one other character who it could possibly be. Grown-up Tim Drake. Every other character keeps saying, he's recovered from the Joker incident, he's rehabilitated, a suspicious number of times. Although I will say that the way Terry puts the final pieces together is pretty brilliant.
Capes, costumes, playing hero, it was kid stuff. Bruce probably did me a favor. In the end, I was so sick of it, I never wanted to see that stupid Robin suit again.
I was never a Robin. I never... Joker smashed up the cases. But why was this the only costume he went out of his way to destroy?
And a final nitpick about the ending. The big reveal shows that the Joker put a computer chip with a copy of his consciousness in Tim Drake's brain, and that's how he came back. It's a Jekyll and Hyde thing.
That flabby oaf doesn't even realize I'm using him as a timeshare. I encoded my DNA on a microchip and set it into Bird Boy's bird brain.
Which... what? First of all, this kind of technology was never introduced in the movie before this point. But more importantly, wouldn't it make way more sense for the Joker to come out of Tim's damaged psyche? That would be way less contrived and it wouldn't change anything else about the plot. But whatever. All in all, this is a really good movie, even if it has some predictable twists. The most competent Batman mystery, I think, is Mystery of the Batwoman. And the mystery is right in the title. There's this new vigilante, Batwoman. During the story, we meet 3 different female characters. They're the only female characters in the movie. They're all the same age and size, and they all have strong motives to hurt criminals. But over the course of the movie, all 3 of them get airtight alibis for an appearance of Batwoman. Then it's revealed that all of them are Batwoman. They just took turns wearing the costume. Which, okay, that's a pretty cool twist. The movie as a whole is pretty forgettable, but the mystery is solid.
Each of you brought something to the party. Kathy had the money, Rocky had the genius, and you had the scheme and the will to make it happen.
After looking at 3 of these movies, the problem takes shape. The thing that makes Batman and Mystery almost incompatible. You may have noticed a pattern with all 3 movies I mentioned. The issue is always a lack of suspects. It's always really obvious who the culprit is, because there are so few people to choose from. But why is that the case? It's because of how the Batman franchise is set up. See, with rare exceptions, there's never a true beginning or end to a Batman story. At the opening of a story, he's been Batman for a while already, and by the end, after he defeats the supervillain of the day, he'll keep being Batman, fighting crime indefinitely. There's a status quo that can't be bucked too much, kind of like the average sitcom. And the status quo includes more than just Batman. People like Robin, Commissioner Gordon, Batgirl, Alfred, and most of the Rogues Gallery of villains are static, unchanging, always the same people in the same places doing the same things. Yeah, the writing and visual style and tone might change, but on some deeper level, every piece of Batman media is part of the same story. If any of them broke away from that pattern, the radical shift would ruin the cohesion between movies. That means you can't just randomly make an established character be a secret bad guy. The only way to do a decent Batman whodunit is to introduce new characters and have them be suspects. But when the franchise already has so many old faces, who people expect to see, taking up the screen time, a movie only has room for 1 or 2 new characters. It's really hard to set up something like this well. I think the people who write these movies realized it too. Following Mystery of the Batwoman, something like 70 Batman movies came out. Almost none of them featured a mystery or a twist villain. The writers probably decided it was more trouble than it was worth. There were a few, though, that attempted to find a way around this problem. And they failed spectacularly. I'll talk about Batman Hush first. This movie has Batman facing off against a new mystery villain named Hush. When I watched this movie, my experience went a little something like this.
Bruce? You're actually here. You never come to these things.
Selena, this is Thomas Elliot, good friend and world-renowned brain surgeon.
Oh, he's the bad guy.
Tom, I owe you so much.
It's the least I can do for all the times I left you hanging. Oh, wait. I will always be your friend. No matter how annoying that can be.
Oh, he's definitely the bad guy. There's no way they would give him this much screen time if he wasn't the bad guy. Okay, he died. But he's not really dead, right? Later they're gonna show that he faked his own death and he's really the bad guy.
Joker. You know what the joke is here?
I'm totally innocent. Ugh, that doesn't even sound right, does it?
So you finally figured it out. I was getting bored.
This is nuts. How's the Riddler involved? He's been locked in here.
I needed a new persona. My true identity had to be kept hush-hush.
Tonight, I'll show them all by doing what none of them could. Killing the Batman!
What? The Riddler? Where did he come from? What? Yeah, so every sign pointed to Thomas Elliot being Hush. Anyone who's ever seen any movie before could see that. Meanwhile, the Riddler was in one inconsequential scene before this. But then right before the climax, Batman randomly stumbles on a major clue that reveals that Riddler is Hush. It's completely out of left field. And by the way, that scene from before, where Hush and the Riddler were seen together, there's a reveal that this Riddler was really the shape-shifting villain Clayface. Of all the cheap, lousy tricks you could possibly pull. When the movie ended, I was confused to say the least. I did some Googling and I found out that in the comic this was based on, Thomas Elliot was Hush. Why? Why did they change this? It really felt like halfway through production, a studio bigwig came down and told the writers, "Sorry, you can't make Thomas Elliot the bad guy," and I had to scramble to find a last-minute workaround. I think that the people who made this movie were aware of the problem I was talking about earlier. They knew that Thomas Elliot was way too predictable as a twist villain. But the solution they came up with wasn't thought out enough. It's subversion for subversion's sake. It's a shame, too. Predictable isn't always bad. Just look at Mask of the Phantasm. If they had followed through with telling the story from the comics, it could have been really great. Instead, the audience just feels cheated.
Can you feel it, Bruce? Can you feel it all slipping away?
The other movie that tried to subvert this problem and failed miserably is Batman Gotham by Gaslight. This is an alternate history where Batman fights crime in the late 1800s. The mystery villain of this story is Jack the Ripper. And at the end of the movie, Jack the Ripper's secret identity is revealed to be Jim Gordon. No. Just no. For all of the reasons I said before, this doesn't work. All of the major Batman characters have preset roles in the story that can't be altered. Gordon is a good guy, and he's the only cop in Gotham Batman can trust. Making him the villain is a betrayal of his character and the audience. Listen to me, I sound like those toxic Star Wars fans who like to tell everybody what is or isn't real Star Wars. In all honesty, this isn't enough to sink the story. And if you're gonna buck tradition, it might as well be in the explicitly alternate version of the characters. Here are the real reasons why this doesn't work. First, Batman discovers that Gordon is the killer completely by accident. He visits his house to talk about the case and then wanders into a room full of incriminating evidence. Second is Gordon's motivation. He gives a big speech during the climax about how he's a religious fanatic who wants to cleanse the world of sin.
Your blood shall christen this fair, woman. Your corruption and decay will spill down over this carnival as a warning to all your kind.
Before this reveal, there was no mention of religion anywhere in the movie. Thematically, it makes no sense. All of the Ripper's victims are poor and disadvantaged women, and there are tons of conversations about the haves and the have-nots throughout the movie. It was setting up for the killer to be a rich man, as a parallel for the wealthy exploiting the poor. Which I guess Gordon is rich, but that has nothing to do with why he's killing. This religion thing is completely out of nowhere. This twist might have worked, it just wasn't properly set up. So, is that it? Are there really no great Batman mysteries? Not quite. There is one movie. One Batman movie that brilliantly sidesteps every problem I mentioned. And that's Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold. In this Scooby-Doo and Batman crossover, anything is fair game, because this story doesn't take place in the usual Batman setting with the usual characters. Alongside Batman and the Scooby Gang, we have a grab bag of DC characters. The mystery villain here is the Crimson Cloak, who is allegedly a ghost determined to get revenge on Batman for failing to save a man named Leo Scarlet. Now at first, it would seem that this has the same problem with lack of suspects as the others. We can assume that Batman, the Scooby Gang, and the other superheroes are innocent. That just leaves two other characters. Leo's father, Sam Scarlet, and the Riddler, who was there the night Leo died, and who they defeated earlier in the movie. But the mystery unfolds in a very effective way. The gang visits the Riddler in Arkham to confirm he's still locked up. This gives him a clear alibi. After their second encounter with the Crimson Cloak, the gang finds a footprint in clay. They go to analyze it, but the clay comes to life and attacks them. This leads them to discover that the Crimson Cloak is really Clayface. Clayface was working with the Riddler, who was the mastermind behind all this. The Riddler in Arkham was a clay decoy. And yeah, that's the exact same fake out I complained about in Batman Hush.
Wow, if I had a nickel for every time...
The Riddler had Clayface pose as his double to give himself an alibi in a Batman movie.
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
But here they actually set it up. There's genuine evidence of shapeshifting throughout the first half of the movie, enough for you to potentially guess what's going on. Still, if that were the end of it, I'd say this is a lame trick to pull, but there's more. On top of that, the Riddler had been among them the whole time, disguised as Batman's superhero teammate, the Question. A twist that's set up perfectly. The Question disappears after fighting the Riddler, and later, his conversation with Aquaman shows the audience just enough to realize something's off without giving the game away.
I'm sure of that.
Well, look who's finally learned to have a little faith. And for a change, you're not ending every sentence with a question. I can't tell you how annoying that was.
Guess I've picked up a few bad habits working with you and Batman.
Why, you've even developed a sense of humor.
See how they pulled this off? They introduced the Riddler as a suspect early on, and in the end, he turns out to be the culprit. But in between those 2 points, the story introduces complications to up the uncertainty. And each of those complications is telegraphed ahead of time, if you know what to look for. Twist after twist makes solving the mystery both harder and fairer than any other movie I've talked about so far. So it is possible to make a good Batman mystery story. It just takes a lot of work. I don't blame the writers of these movies for mostly avoiding the subject altogether. But the possibility of more mystery-focused Batman in the future isn't out of the question. The upcoming live-action Batman movie looks like it'll have some mystery in it, thanks to Paul Dano as our old pal the Riddler. Will it be any good? We'll see. Hopefully those at Warner Brothers will have learned from their mistakes and have figured out how to tell a great whodunit that'll blow us all away. And maybe he'll also use Clayface as a stunt double, and we'll get a trifecta. Whatever happens, I can't wait.
If you are justice,